Welcome to Podnutz Daily for February 4th, 2009, episode number 142. Got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. Some pretty good stuff we're going over in the shop, and a couple other things we're doing. First thing I want to talk about is Dial-A-Fix. Had a computer pretty infested with spyware, and we ran Dial-A-Fix the other day because the problem was the computer would not allow us to install malwarebytes to get rid of the spyware. It was saying we didn't have permission to do it or something along those lines. Well, there's a tool in Dial-A-Fix. If you hit the little picture of a hammer and a screwdriver or something like that, there's tools, and then there's an option that says repair permissions. You could click on that and repair all the permissions on the computer, and that sometimes will allow you to now have the ability again to install programs that the spyware is trying to stop you from doing. So we did that, and that worked. So that's good. We were able to install it. Now, after it was installed, it wouldn't run. There is a program we've been using. It's only a 30-day trial, and I don't know how much it's going to cost or if we're going to continue to use it, but it has been working. There's a program called Trojan Remover. I don't know the URL, but if you just Google Trojan Remover, that's what it is. And that did enough that allowed us to run malwarebytes to get rid of the spyware. So Dial-A-Fix helped us install it. Trojan Remover allowed us to run it, and then we were able to get everything off of it. I don't know if you guys have ever installed fans in a case on a processor, but there's different methods of installing fans. Which direction should they be facing? Should they be pointing into the case or should they be blowing out of the case? Well, we did a little bit of research online for this because we had one particular computer was running very hot. It was a Pentium 4 with hyperthreading. And for those of you who don't know, those are hot processors. They run very hot. It's they run so hot. In fact, that's why Intel took a couple steps back in their design when they were designing processors. They got to a point with the Pentium 4 with hyperthreading where it was just so much they were trying to stuff in one direction, like one pipeline on one chip, that it was getting so hot they couldn't go any farther. It was a bad design. So they backed up to basically Pentium 3 technology, took another turn starting from Pentium 3 in another direction, and that's where we get the Core and the Core 2's family of chips. So if you ever had a Pentium 4 with hyperthreading, those babies run super hot. And it turns out this computer had a fan. The air wasn't blowing through the heatsink. It was blowing out of the heatsink. And I'm thinking that was the problem. But it turned out it was just clogged. Behind the fan, up at the heatsink, it was just caked with dust. That's why the processor was running hot. You can actually do it both ways. You could suck air through the heatsink, or you could blow air into the heatsink and keep the processor cool. Both seem to work. But the general gist from the research that I saw, I just looked at this very, very briefly, but I wanted to bring it up because it's something that you might want to look into, is to keep the air flowing in one direction through the case. You don't want your case fan blowing air into the case and your processor fan blowing air basically in the same direction the case fans or in the opposite direction the case fan's blowing in. Then you got to consider what direction the power supply fan is spinning. What you want to have is a nice flow through the case, over the heatsink, out of the case. That seems to be the main thing. So try to get all the air going in the same direction. A lot of these fans have arrows on them, and the arrows tell you what direction the air is going to flow through the fan. So look for arrows on the case. Be cautious when you're installing case fans that you're pointing them in a proper direction. And if you don't know what direction to point them in, and I'm still not 100% like on the exact strategy here, Google it. Google, like fan directions, case fans, processor fans, and make sure that your computer has a nice flow of air through it. Okay, sometimes I do talk about things that I don't even know about, but I think would be good to look into. So, excuse me for being ignorant on the subject of fans, but I know that it's something that's there's not a lot of indoctrination out there on it and what the correct way is to do it and that kind of thing. So do some research on it. I bet you'll find that some of your fans are being mounted wrong in your computers. Okay, next thing. Verizon Internet Security Suite. Hate this program. Probably had I hate it because it does harm machines. It's actually brought me a couple jobs though, so I guess I can't hate it too much, but no, I do hate it. As a humanitarian, I hate it. What it does basically, I've seen so many machines where it just crashes the boot process on Windows. And this is not McAfee. It's called Verizon Internet Security Suite. I don't know if they still use it, but I believe 2 years ago or so it was pretty big. When you got DSL, this is what they suggested you use. When you would put your DSL disk in the computer and it installed this. Crashed this one machine completely. But this customer also installed Norton and McAfee at the same time, then installed Verizon on top of it. But just be aware, Verizon Internet Security Suite, if you see it on systems and you know that the system's acting funny, just try uninstalling that program, and I bet you a lot of the problems go away. Just a bit of a warning there on Verizon Internet Security Suite. It actually caused this blue screen where it was the error on the blue screen. This was in a Dell XPS Dimension desktop. The error was blue screen stop C000021A fatal system error. That was the error I was getting on this blue screen. I'll just post that in the chat room. And this gave me the opportunity, because I've been looking into using the Ultimate Boot CD for Windows now, and there are so many cool tools on the Ultimate Boot CD for Windows that I'm going to do a whole Podnutz show, me and Mike Petro, about the Ultimate Boot CD for Windows and go through all the tools on it. That's going to be in the next episode of Podnutz. Having this blue screen error, I decided to test the power of my Ultimate Boot CD and see if I could fix it using that. The first thing I did was a registry repair using the registry repair wizard on the Ultimate Boot CD, which is fantastic. I've talked about in a couple episodes before, and I'm thinking I'm all smart, about doing a manual registry repair where you actually go into the System 32 config folder and you move files into that folder from your restore point folders. Well, this program on the Ultimate Boot CD for Windows does it automatically. It's called Registry Repair Wizard. It takes about 3 seconds. Somebody sent me an email about it. I'm going to read that. But I took that advice, ran that thing. It brought the registry back to a restore point, which was fine. And I think the program worked, but the only thing was that didn't solve the problem. So I knew the registry wasn't the problem at this point. Then the second thing I wanted to do was use a program to uninstall programs from my Windows installation while not being in Windows. So I wanted to see if I could use the Ultimate Boot CD for Windows to uninstall programs like, for example, the Verizon Internet Security Suite. I wanted to uninstall that from this Windows installation and see if that was causing the Windows installation to crash. I didn't find something that's exactly like add remove programs on the Ultimate Boot CD, and some people I did Google search it too, and some people were confused about when somebody was asking about that. Is there an add remove programs on the Ultimate Boot CD? The people who were responding to him were like, why do you want to remove programs from the Ultimate Boot CD? So they would